Thank you for joining us today for this webinar with Ansell and the title, How to Choose Sustainable PPE. Before we begin, I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Tina Jüling and I'm a commercial communication specialist at Fisher Scientific. At Fisher Scientific, we offer a series of informative webinars to support our customers. These webinars are designed to help you stay updated on our products, improve your knowledge and skills, explore the latest technology, and connect with experts in the field. If you would like to see upcoming webinars or watch previous ones, you can visit our dedicated webinar webpage. Please note this webinar is being recorded and will be available later on our webpage. Now I would like to hand over to my colleague Eva, who will explain how the Q&A session will work.
Hello everyone and welcome again to today's webinar. My name is Eva Albertsson and I'm also commercial communication specialist here at Fisher Scientific. And I will guide you through the Q&A session after the presentation. You are very welcome to ask questions at any time during the webinar. And to do so, simply type your questions in the chat box on the right side of your screen. Our expert will do their best to answer your questions during the Q&A session at the end. So over to you, Tina, again.
Thank you. So I think we are now ready to start the webinar. Today we are joined by Samare Astaraki. Samare is a Senior Sustainability Communications Manager at Ansell. She leads the development and delivery of sustainability messages both internally and externally. Her expertise combines corporate social responsibility and strategic content development. She focuses on building strong and clear messages that align with global sustainability goals. Samare is passionate about making complex sustainability topics easy to understand and using communication to inspire action across different audiences. And now I will hand over to you, Samare. I wish you all an interesting and informative webinar.
Thank you, Tina, for the introduction. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you all. Perfect. So hello again, and thank you for joining us. In today's session, in the next 20 minutes or 25 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through a few practical steps on how to choose sustainable PPE. And I'm focusing on sustainable PPE for the target audience that we have here, obviously, and also because I come from Ansell, who is a leading manufacturer of PPE. But really the steps that we're going to look at together today can be applicable to any industry, any product that you buy. We are all consumers. And if you are concerned about the choices you make, and if you want to make a responsible choice that affects the environment and the social pillars of any operations or any decision that you make, I think these steps could help you apply can be easily applied to those steps you make. So it can be for sustainable PPE, but it can really be for any product you're purchasing as a consumer. So what you are going to see today and what are the steps we're going to look at together? There are 5 main steps that you can take. Obviously, sustainability is very broad. There are many other things you can do. But I think in the context of PPE, I think these 5 summarize the decision-making process and how you can make a true impact when purchasing PPE. So the first one is watch out for green and social washing. The second, always look for proof. Question every claim that you see out there. The third one is when you see a carbon footprint data of a product or of an operation, always check how that information is being used. I'll get more into that as we move forward with the presentation. The fourth one is look for durable products. How can you reduce consumption? How can you look for products that last longer? And finally, sustainability is not only about the environment. I know that environment gets a lot of attention rightfully so, seeing all the challenges we have with the climate change. But also, you need to look at how a company treats the people and the employees in their supply chain, and how really your products, the products that you're purchasing, is having an impact on the people, and how the company is treating the people that they work for. And I think we have to all be conscious, again, as consumers, you want to look for companies and support companies that at least try to have a more positive impact on the environment and in the areas where they operate and with the people that they work with. So let's get right into it. The first step is to watch out for greenwashing and social washing. I know you probably have heard the term greenwashing quite a lot. It's not a new term, but maybe social washing, not so much. Again, as I mentioned, greenwashing is more related to the environment. It's more about how a company is having an environmental impact on the water, in the air, with the waste. But there's also a social aspect to it, how the company is treating its employees, and not only its own employees, but how are they treating the people in their entire supply chain. And I think maybe a very tangible example that we've all seen, I'm sure, in our day-to-day life is planting a tree. Right, don't get me wrong, planting a tree is a great contribution to the environment. But if planting a tree is the only thing that the company does, and you can't really see any proof of anything else that they're doing, you need to question that. So I think that planting trees, cleaning up beaches, they're great little small actions, but you need to look at the bigger picture here. What is that company really doing? Are they really so busy trying to create buzzwords and claims, and so that they don't want to focus on the real impact that they have on the environment and on the emissions and on the people in their supply chain? So I think that's the first thing you need to look at for the bigger picture. What is the company doing as a whole? So how can you do that, right? So because again, as consumers, it's not always easy to understand what you should be looking for. So there are a few ways you can indicate and you can evaluate if a company's claims towards sustainability is accurate and substantiated. We look at for words that we all hear, but we don't really know what it means, like eco-friendly, or what I love is green. So green everywhere, right? Green plastic bags, green cups, green. It can be anything. As long as you add the word green to it, you think, oh, it's sustainable. So look for the buzzwords. Again, the buzzwords on their own are not the problem, but what substantiation, what documentation can you see from that company, right? What is behind it? What are the metrics? Are they sharing any data with you? I can give you an example, like for the carbon footprint of the products or of their manufacturing side, you need a set of technical experts to give you those numbers. So if you see any number that is especially too good to be true, always look for disclaimers. See, are they using any specific certifications? Are they providing any certifications? Are they going through any specific audits? Why are those audits legitimate or not? That's another question. But look for ways that you can substantiate. Where does this come from? And also, again, look for real impact. So all these beautiful claims that we have collected waste, this amount of waste, or this amount of trees. Again, that's not bad, but look for bigger impact. How is the company really focusing on their progress when it comes to the environment, with the social? So I would say the simplest way is ask questions. Go beyond what you just see and question the claims that you see in their marketing assets and on their website or wherever it is that you're seeing that information. Second step is to look for proof. So one of the, I would say, most comprehensive way you can evaluate a company's carbon footprint for product or for their operations is through a method or a set of assessments called LCA, which is life cycle assessment. And what it is really is that you have to think about a product from the minute it's sourced, so the raw material we have and we use in our products, until this stage where the product is no longer in use. So what LCA actually does is they test the product throughout its life cycle, and they can tell you exactly, as a company, as a manufacturer, where you have the biggest environmental impact. Is it the way you package your product? Is it the way you manufacture your product? Is it the raw material that you use? LCA is a very crystal clear method that can tell you where you are making your biggest environmental impact. One thing I would like to mention here, because I've seen it in my work certainly, is that LCAs have become almost like a marketing tool, which they're not fundamentally, right? What you want to know is, once the company has conducted the LCAs for their products, what are they doing with that information? Because again, it's great to have the numbers, but what is that number going to do for you? How are you going to help to improve the products that you have? And having the carbon footprint data of each single product is almost impossible. There are some tools that can calculate that quickly, but we're not 100% there. So again, I think that we should move away from just focusing on the carbon footprint of the product and look at, okay, they have some carbon footprint of their products. They know the emissions of their manufacturing side. What are the decisions they're making to reduce that, right? Another way you can look for proof is, we all have heard of ISO frameworks one way or another. For sustainability, ISO also has and offers certifications. So you have one ISO certification, 14064. It focuses on reporting and measuring your carbon footprint of either your products or your manufacturing sites. You also have two specific ones to ISO, to carbon footprint. That's what we use at Ansell. The LCA technicians, they use these ISOs as guidelines and as certification. So we follow those frameworks to conduct an accurate and comprehensive test. And then finally, for sustainability, you also have the ISO 5001, which is an environmental management system, which basically they have a systematic approach on how to reduce the environmental impact of your performance. So look for ISO guidance. I think ISO certifications are one of the most legitimate ones that we currently have. You have other environmental certifications that you can look out for, but I would say ISO is a very well recognized framework that you can trust. So these are the suggestions that we have for when it comes to looking out for proof. So coming back to, don't just look for the carbon footprint, because I know it's very trendy right now, the carbon footprint, but I would like to give you some example. If you only know the carbon footprint of your product, if the company only calculates that, but then there's nothing to do, or there are no actions afterwards to reduce those carbon footprints, it's kind of like knowing how many bottles of Coca-Cola you drink in a day. You know it's bad for you. You know that you should not probably consume so much, but you're consuming it anyway. You have the knowledge. You know that it's not good, but you're not doing anything to change your diet, to change your lifestyle. Knowing the carbon footprint only of your product is also like that. So you look at the bigger picture. LCAs are great to calculate your carbon footprint, your manufacturing GHG emissions, but there should be an action in place from the company to do more than that. So we know, for example, at Ansell, if you look at this graph that we have, we do the LCAs for our products. And if you look at, and we obviously have different products in our portfolio, right? We have chemical, mechanical, surgical products. But if you look closely at any of these parameters, you can see that the raw material and manufacturing is actually where we pollute the most. So when people are so fixated on the end of life, so the recycling program. So how do you recycle? Again, it's great. It does have an environmental impact, but really it's not the main polluter for us, at least. So that's why I think at raw material and manufacturing, that's where we focus in Ansell, that we try to optimize our manufacturing processes and the raw materials that we put into our products. So again, I think knowing the knowledge is key, but then what you have to do afterwards, which is the most important step. How do you optimize your operations? How do you optimize the product raw materials? Companies have different ways to give that information to you. So transparency is quite important when looking for a supplier or working with a specific company. So at Ansell, we focus on the 5 stages. So we look at the material we use, we look at our manufacturing operations. We have around 40 manufacturing sites. So we make sure they're audited. The packaging, we have packaging in place, goals, use, which is I will get to, is how do you consume, how many pairs of gloves do you use, and then the end of use. So once the glove or the product has served its purpose, how does it go away? How do we get rid of it? So the end of use, that's this stage that it comes from. In Ansell, we focus on these 5 pillars, and everything that we have is on our website. We have transparent data on it. So I would like for all of you, no matter what product you buy, to focus on transparency. Are they able to tell you where their certifications are coming from, where these claims are coming from? And if they can, those are the signs that you're working with the right company and you're supporting the right company. Number 4, look for durable products. I think as consumers, the first thing and maybe the most vital things we can do for anything, not only PPE, like the food we eat or the clothes we buy, is to reduce consumption. That's one of the most impactful way we can help the environment. But for that, obviously, you need products that last. So look for products that are durable, products that do not require replacements all of the sudden, all every 2-3 months. Obviously, you need to look at the application, right? So you need to, for example, for surgical gloves, you're hoping your nurse or your doctor is changing them quite regularly. But what you need to focus on is that they're not out of life before their required time. You need to look for gloves that reduce the waste and they last longer, or any other products. And obviously, there's a cost effectiveness associated with it, resource conservation, because you need to produce less. And then overall, if you look, for example, for washable mechanical PPE that is made from durable materials and doesn't go bad after a few washes, that's one of the best ways you can reduce consumption and you can help the environment. And finally, check for the people within that company. I know that it's probably difficult to know all the details, but nowadays with the internet, you can find a lot of information. Sustainability is not only about the environment. When a lot of times when you hear, oh, but it's so cheap, the price is half, you always have to think about how can they afford this price? How much are they paying the people? What is the social impact? Are they treating the people fairly? Do they have correct working hours? So I think when it comes to a company that you want to choose to associate with, think about safe, fair, and ethical working conditions. Make sure that the employers have a place to complain, the companies are taking responsibility for their employees. The employees have decent working hours, decent rest hours. And finally, the most important, I think, look for companies that do audits, independent audits, not something that they just tell you, oh, our company is great, our manufacturing sites are great, but look for SMETA, for RAP, for RBA, for established frameworks where an auditor goes to your plant, and checks for red flags when it comes to the employers working there, the operational workers working there. Some of the things you should ask for, which are serious, and I think as a consumer, we should know about this, is that are there any form of modern slavery involved? Do they have child labor? Do they keep the passports? A lot of companies, they keep the passports of their workers, and it's not easy for them to come and go as they please. There is no freedom of movement. All the companies that allow a lot of overtime work, or they force people to overwork, make sure that the people there have a hotline that they can complain to without the fear of retaliation. And I think all of it, as a consumer, what you can look for is the audit. A simple question: are your manufacturing sites being audited by an independent party? Yes or no? And I think already starting from there, you can learn a lot from how the company operates. So I know there was a lot of information there. So just to recap, just to tell you what, again, reminding you of those steps. Look for greenwashing and social washing. If you see any claims that you feel like is way too good to be true, question it. If it's important for you to work with a supplier that is responsible, question the claims that they have. Look for proof. If you see any big numbers, especially for carbon footprint, ask where they get their numbers from. Did they do an LCA assessment? Ask for proof in that sense. Look for products that truly last. Look for durable products that do not require replacement every shift. And then finally, ask for the way the company is protecting and treating the people, not only in their manufacturing sites, but also the people in their supply chain, because it's also sometimes easy to close your eyes and say, oh, well, they're not part of my manufacturing site, but there's still people who are being mistreated with the suppliers that you work with. So again, question the ethics of the company that you are working with. So in a nutshell, what does a sustainable product look like? I would say a sustainable product is a product that both the environment and the social aspect of it is respected. It's made in a manufacturing that treats the employees right. They're doing the necessary to reduce their carbon emissions. They're doing all the necessary efforts to reduce the waste through their manufacturing side, through the packaging, through the products that they design. Look for the bigger picture. And then obviously look for companies that get audited by a third-party source. And there are no retaliation if the workers come forward with a problem that they have. Now, does it mean that we have everything right? Does it mean that no one ever makes mistakes? I don't think that there's any company in the world that can say, I have it all figured out and everything is great in my company. But you need, as a consumer, to make the necessary steps and make sure that at least you do your part in what you consume and what companies you work with. So I hope it was useful. I hope it was a set of practical guidelines of how to choose sustainable PPE or any product that you consume. And with that, I would like to hand over to Eva for the questions, if you got anything. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Samaria, for a very, very interesting presentation. And there are a lot of things to think about, I think. So now it's time for the question and answer session. And I have some questions for you. How exactly does conducting an LCA help drive sustainability?
So that's a good question. So how can LCA help drive? So as I explained, LCA is an assessment. It will tell you that where you are making the most environmental impact, So if it's in your manufacturing, it's in your packaging, it's the way you recycle the products at the end of their life. It will give you a clear guideline where you are making the most negative environmental impact. And then it's up to you as a company to decide what you want to invest in. So I give you an example of Ansell. For example, we know that raw material and manufacturing are our biggest hotspots where we have the most toll on the environment. As a result, we focus on optimizing our manufacturing processes, make sure we have ISO certifications in place, and also we are looking into innovative ways to incorporate sustainable material. Now, there are some restrictions, there are some limitations with that. We're not totally there with all the material that we would like to have because the just solutions sometimes are not there. But LCA can tell you where you are doing wrong, where you need optimization and improvements. And then as a company, you decide based on that where you want to put your focus on.
Thank you. And I have another question. How do I compare the environmental impact of different PPE options?
Yeah, this is something I always get asked by our customers as well. And the truth is, you shouldn't compare. Like so much, like you cannot compare yourself to another person because you have different abilities. We are different people. The same thing applies here with products. Because first of all, you cannot compare. You will never know how exactly the carbon footprint was measured and calculated, right? So that's already where you lose. So I wouldn't say, if you want to truly make a sustainable choice, don't compare carbon footprint, but look at the bigger picture. Like again, as I said, it's like, yeah, you're drinking too much Coca-Cola, but are you doing anything to reduce the number? Are you doing anything to improve your lifestyle? I think it's that. So don't compare the environmental impact. Companies make products differently. The way what the product requires from a performance, operational, application standpoint is different, but focus on bigger, don't have a carbon tunnel vision, I would say.
Thanks a lot. Then we move over to the next question. Is it possible to recycle PPE? And if so, how?
It is absolutely possible to recycle PPE. Now, it depends on the contamination level, right? Because some products, like if it's a very strong chemical or if it's used in a specific application, for example, surgical products, it's very hard. If you have a lot of blood on that as part of the application, it's hard to recycle. But absolutely, there are companies that focus on recycling. You have it in Europe, you have it in other parts of the world as well. So it can be recycled. It's trickier than others, especially if it's nitrile involved in your PPE, but there are definitely options. You can partner with recycling companies that can help you with that. And there are some options that you have. I would say in Europe, it stays very expensive and it's not as broad as we would like, however, to see, but there are definitely options and you can recycle PPE to some extent.
Thank you. Then we have a question from Emily. But we as buyers buying maybe 5,000 individual products every year can check everything from CO2 and cannot check everything from CO2 and LCAs to child labor. It is completely overwhelming and simply not possible to us. It must be the companies that does this and then communicate it to buyers by international standards. Greenwashing happens because we cannot check all, so the companies get away with it. It is very unethical.
Perfect. So yeah, I fully agree. I think that there's a lot of pressure on us as consumers to make the right choices. Now, I would like to start with the fact that you can only be responsible of the decisions that you make as a consumer, right? So I understand that it's difficult, and I, as a consumer, I deal with it myself. But you still have to scan to some extent the companies you work with. But I fully agree with you. I think there are some regulations in place with EU, the green guidelines, which is not being implemented across EU, unfortunately. But there are each country, EU requires each country to make their own decisions when it comes to greenwashing, when it comes to the claims that they make. So there are some regulations in place, especially in EU and some other parts, especially California, for example, in the US. But I wouldn't say it's not as strict as they should be on companies. So that's why we continue seeing these greenwashings. So that's why I think in the absence of those strict guidelines and regulations, as consumers, we play a big part.
Thank you. And then Vim, he has a question about your other brand, Kimtech, is offering Right Cycle. Does this mean Ansell products can be added to this program as well?
So I personally am not responsible for the Right Cycle program at Ansell. I know it's a great program and it has been running for 15 years, especially in the US. But I believe the Right Cycle team at Ansell is looking into including Ansell products to the chain. I can't tell you right top of my head exactly when, but it's definitely something that they're looking into.
Great, I think. So I think it was the last question, and so I will now hand over to Tina.
Thank you, Eva. That brings us already to the end of our webinar today. Before we finish, I would like to thank you all for joining us, especially you, Samarie, for delivering such an engaging and informative session. Before we say goodbye, just a quick reminder to check our website for upcoming webinars. And if you would like to stay informed about the latest news and future sessions, please follow us on our social media channels. Wishing you a great afternoon, and until next time, goodbye for now.